Good evening. Hello. So the computers, no, I left them the key so they could upgrade them. They didn't leave me the key back. So sorry.
It's okay. I'm going and
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you online.
yeah. I see you.
How are you doing?
Give her the-
Bye-bye. Hello, goodbye. Here's fast. When we schedule the classes, we schedule around Halloween because we figure a lot of people have kids that want to go trick or treating instead of come to class. So in our case, we'll be done Thursday before Halloween.
We do the test the last day.
No, but I was going to mention this. That's the right one. So I did talk to the administrator, and he said he'd be interested in funding the exams for anybody who wants to take them,
Oh, yes.
to take in the class. So that's the good news. Want to hear the bad news? So today he called. He's being transferred to Patterson High School to fill in for somebody, and won't be back till January. So we'll probably do it after January.
We will have to just.
But I've got you on the email. So once it happens, I'll let everybody know, because everybody's eligible to take it. And, you know, it's interesting to see how it turned out. Yeah. It's a QuickBooks certification. That's actually what I'm showing you on the screen right now.
I will love to that.
This is. So it's just a test. And if you pass it, then they send you a certificate from QuickBooks that says you're QuickBooks certified. And it's not too hard. It's basically just, you know, customers, vendors, all the things we've done. And it gives you an extra certificate from somebody else other than Patterson High School. It's a national certificate. And you can also, if you really get into it, they do have a pro advisor certification where you can actually become an advice giver to other QuickBooks users. So yeah, I don't know. You can keep going with it on and on. No, but when you go like for a job interview, or if you are an advisor, yes, you can get paid. Yeah, you can either do it on.
You're applying for a job, you can just say, well,
Yeah,
I'm certificate.
yeah. If you're doing something that requires some bookkeeping, you say, oh, and by the way, I happen to have this QuickBooks certification.
Right.
So it's one more thing. And you know, it's kind of handy to have on your resume. But if you get into it, you'll see you got the online advisor, payroll advisor, desktop advisor. I think payroll is the hardest, but the others, it's pretty straightforward. And
Mr. Guerra, for Patterson, every year they offer the same classes, or do you guys bring more?
they offer the same classes, but sometimes it change.
Okay.
But for us, we've always done the basic bookkeeping, advanced bookkeeping, and Microsoft Office. And that's been pretty consistent. We did do one on setting up a gig business, like for Uber and things like that. And it was okay. A couple people showed up, but not enough to keep it going. And then they did another one on job searching, how to make a resume, how to go through interviews, and we did interview practice and things like that. So
Okay.
sometimes they'll do something new.
But every year is kind of the same.
Yeah, mostly. Then the other classes they have are here at their website. And I'll see if they put up the coding, because he said he was going to do it. Let's see.
How do you use coding, Mr. Guerra? In a career, what do you do with coding?
You're basically telling the computers what to do. So let's take a look at it.
Let's see if I want to apply for a job and I have the coding class. Like, what kind of job do you get with that?
You get a job where you sit at the computer all day long, you drink sodas to keep yourself awake, and you just code. You just type computer code all the time. And then what you do is you're giving the computer instructions. So like, you know, when we set up our customers, right? There's that customer screen and it says name.
Right.
Okay. That name has to have an entry. So you put the code in, you code it in such a way, no proceeding without this being entered, basically, translating it to English, right? So if somebody tries to save it without a name in there, the program says, nope, error, and won't let you leave until you put a name in there or you cancel. And then like zip codes, it'll say, they call it a string. So the string is like an entry. So it should say the string has to be numeric, not letters. You can't put ABC in a zip code. That wouldn't make any sense. So it traps for that. And if you do that, then it gives you then the user gets an error. Well, somebody has to decide, what color is the background going to be? How much space am I going to give? What font am I going to use to say the word zip code? What font are they going to type in? What color is the font going to be? And you make all those decisions and then tell the computer, here's the way I want it to look. And you can see here, They learn HTML, JavaScript, and let's see if it's open yet.
Do you offer those classes too?
They're here. Oh, did you do this? Okay, well, he said, all right, so this one, it was closed. It said it was closed for fall. So I asked them. He said, oh, no, it shouldn't be. I'll open it. So he opened it. You said you're interested. Sign up. It's the same deal. I think this one, though, I mean, it's the same deal in that it doesn't cost you anything. There are a couple on here. Yeah, let's see what it says.
Oh, that's a 7-month class? Ooh.
This will consist of approximately 10 to 20 hours a week for a total of 7 to 14 months, depending on the amount of hours you put in each week. The total hours that need to be completed for the course is 560 hours.
Wow.
It's a lot to learn. You basically, though, it's just a set of instructions. And so you'll set it up, then you practice it, you run it. You say, all right, let me see, I want to pretend I'm the user, show me my customer list. Okay, so you run it and then you see if it works right. And then if there's something wrong, you go back and fix it. That's called debugging. So you ask what kind of job. Some people's job is just plain debuggers. They take other people's programs, and what happens is if you're a programmer, you have certain biases, right? You're expecting certain things. Users don't have those. So like if I see zip code, I know, don't put in a letter. But sometimes, like if you're, is it Canadian? I think Canadians use their codes with letters or something. So they might try something different. And then I'll come back and say, no, I need to put a letter here because that's what the provinces use or whatever. So then the programmer goes back and fixes it. So that's what one person does, is they do the testing and then send back any errors. So that's one person's job. But you still have to know the coding to make those fixes. Then
Do you think this
I don't know. That's a really good question. So what happened was, I'm sure you may have heard of those. Like it was about 5 years ago or so. There was a big push for coding, and like when they said, "Oh, we're going to shut down the oil pipeline," but people can do coding, right? Like coding was the answer to everything. Well, it's not. It's not. First of all, it's not for everybody, because like I said, you're basically working a lot on your own with a computer, staring into screen all day, and not everybody likes that kind of thing. Other people like to be around people. So that's one thing too. Plus, there aren't that many jobs. I mean, there are jobs, and for good coders, there's always jobs. Have you seen the new games where the first-person point of view and the graphics are all great? That's all done by code. So even simple games, from tennis to these interactive games, have to have code in it. So somebody's got to do all that. And it used to be one person could sit down and write a program, code up a little game program. Now they're so complex, it takes teams. So the good news is you can also work from pretty much anywhere, because you're just working with a computer and you can work distance learning. Yep, a lot of that happens here.
Yeah.
So they basically tell you here what they're going to teach. I don't know anybody who's taken the class, so I can't tell you exactly how well it goes. And I certainly don't know anybody who's got a job from it. But if you look, the company's called Bay Valley Tech. You can look at their website. And some of them, some of the ones from 5 years ago shut down. It's because they called them coding camps, boot camps. And basically it was supposed to be something real intense, like 2 weeks of coding, and then you come out and get a job. Well, then people didn't get jobs. 2 weeks just wasn't enough. So there are some people. And apparently they offer internships, which means unpaid work, but you get experience. So if you just read through all this, and you can go to their website. Don't apply now. I don't think they charge you, but anyway, you want to do it through the Patterson one anyway, just so you have somebody local. It looks like it. It said here, how can we offer it for free? for like these internships. So it looks like it. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I see their location down here. So yeah, go through the adult school, sign up here and see what happens. Didn't say the start date though.
So they open it.
But it says it's open.
Yeah. Well, 7 months, it sounds so long, but when I did the Microsoft, it took me a year and a half. That's why I wonder why you guys only do 2 weeks only for each program.
Because it doesn't go into a whole lot of advance. It's a lot of the basics, and it's the online 365. But yeah, there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
And if you get into coding, or even if you want to get into some kind of coding, Excel has its own version of coding. It's Visual Basic, and so does Access. I think you can do some in Word too. You can certainly do what are called macros. And macros are where you're teaching the computer to do something. Usually it's something you do a lot.
Right.
So I'll give you an example we had. When I worked at Tri-Valley, they had the old program and then they bought this new software. Well, everything had to be moved over into the new software, and then it had to be corrected. All right, so they did that. But they didn't trust the new software yet because nobody knew it. So what happened was whenever we got something new into the warehouse, you had to put it in twice. Well, that's really slowing everybody down, right? So you type it in, like canned tomatoes, 16-ounce can, which brand, whatever. So I set up a macro. I had the 2 screens side by side. And once I had the old one done, I pushed a macro control, which was, I think, Control B or something, right? Do that. And it followed my lead, and I copied the name, switched over, pasted. Copy the size, switch over, copy the quantity. See, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now, if I do that, it's going to take me a couple minutes. When I did the Control B, the computer went, done. Yeah, so that saved a lot of time. So that's a version of a macro. It's basically you're telling the computer, do this set of steps whenever I hit Control B. And so that was handy. And that's coding. I mean, I didn't actually put in a HTML code, but I taught the computer to do a routine. And when you're coding, that's essentially what you're doing.
Mr. Garrett, so for when we able to do the test, it's gonna be here, right? And,
yeah.
No code, like no extra charge.
No. That's the idea.
Well, then,
so, like, here's an example of some HTML code. If you want to see what it would actually look like. And all it is, everything you do is in these little brackets, the greater than, less than sign. And like you put in the title of whatever you're doing. So you say title, and this is called example.
Yeah.
And whenever you, the way HTML coding works is when you start a line, you have to end the line. So you see it says title, and then here it says slash title. So that's saying start title. The title of this is example, end. That's it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you'll see that all over the place down here. There's these slashes, A, and then slash A. And so you learn what all that means. And a lot of things carry over, like headers and titles, you know what those are for Microsoft Word and things like that. And it's the same idea. But you do it over and over again. Yeah, it's learning to talk to the computers. And the good part is, like, well, that's not a very good example. If you really get into it, let's see this.
So complicated, like, oh my God.
It is, but, well, there's no good example here.
I wonder when you will know how to mix like symbols and letters and numbers.
Well, that's what I was going to tell you. Is here's the good news. Okay, well, so this is not a really good example, but let's say you're doing a new program, and remember I mentioned you do the customers screen. So now you're going to do one for vendors. Well, we know those customer and vendor screens are almost exactly the same. So what do? You copy the customer one, paste it in here, and now you just change the title from customer to vendor. You change how it's recorded, right? But everything else is almost exactly the same. Address, city, state, zip. You just saved yourself some time. So what they do, I think in the class, the way it looks is when you do the coding, you learn from scratch how to code. But to be honest with you, there are basically the templates. They're called modules, but there's things people have already done before. And you say, okay, I want a user registration. I want to put the person's name and address in my program. So I take the module that somebody else already has done, paste it in here, and then you check it. Let's make sure it works right. So you copy, paste it, done, right? Just that simple. And then you modify it any way that you want to. And then the other thing I was telling you, you have to select the font and the colors. Well, now, how do you do that? It's like you do in Microsoft Word. There's a little toolbox. And now instead of having to remember the color for red, I think the number is something like 5182 or something like that. Instead of having to memorize that, you just select it, click red, right? Paint it red. The computer figures out the code for you, and then it puts the code on the side. When you've got it all the way you like, exactly the way you like it, you just copy that code now, paste it into your document. But that's the easy way. Does it always work? No, sometimes there's compatibility issues and things that go wrong. So that's where you have to know where the code needs to be fixed. But it can be a really good job. And then if you're really creative, you can create your own stuff. So they say 10 to 20 hours a week.
Wow.
And then the other classes,
That sounds intense,
you don't like it, drop it.
right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Try it.
Do you know if it is in person in my Zoom?
I think it's all online.
I can do 2 months of coming here.
Well, here's what I would do.
For 7 months,
Yeah, so what I would suggest is if you can find out, if maybe Patterson could tell you, like have a class meeting here where you all do it together. And that way you're working together with other people in the same boat and you can all help each other and ask each other questions.
Right.
Yeah, see, so they're weekly on-site classes. Oh, it says on-site. I think this is old, temporarily held online through shelter in place. So I think they're back to classroom.
Not that bad. That's why it's that long, because it's only once a week, right?
Yeah. And then, the thing to do is practice it. Try it on your own
Right.
because they'll give you the software to practice it. And it's not hard. I'd learned COBOL in high school. It's
Wow.
completely worthless now, but at least it gets you the idea of coding for a computer.
I always think that with computers, we always have to be like on track and just keep updating the information that we learn, because technology is just moving and moving and moving. And you don't know how to use technology, you just get stuck in a world that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, but it's also like your car. You don't have to know how to fix the engine, but you do need to know the rules of driving. And you got to put gas in it, oil in it, things like that. So you learn what you need, and then if you want to learn more,
Yeah.
you can buy all the things, expand into it.
Right.
Learn how to replace a battery. That's important. Replace a tire, stuff like that. Logistics is essentially, let's see if we got it here. I didn't close it yet. See if that one's still up here. I think I saw it. Yeah, logistics and distribution. So that's like for truck driving, but not driving the trucks. You're actually controlling the trucks and basically managing in and out of stuff. Yeah, it's the office side of it. And then keeping track of what goes where.
So you're giving out directions to
You can, or you're setting up a schedule, like truck A goes into the schedule. So they're going to be going to Los Angeles. All right, so what else do we need to go? Has to go to Los Angeles. So you load up basically the stuff in that truck, send it out. The truck driver says, okay, I'm going to go to, I don't know, big Save Mart and Raley's. And they have something from their warehouse going to LA. So they do. And then they'll send you a confirmation and you keep track of all that as it's going through. Although, when I click on it, I'm not getting anything. There it is. And then I think medical interpreter, I think there's $100 charge for that one.
Oh,
And
that's not
certified
bad.
nursing assistant.
My sister was interested in taking that one.
Yeah. And then CNA, certified nursing assistant. I think there's a charge for that one. This one here. I think that is translating Spanish to English.
But they're just on the medical field with,
Yeah.
you know, the medical language.
Yeah. So what would happen is, like this kind of job, if there was a patient that only spoke Spanish or was primarily Spanish and wasn't really that comfortable with English, you would accompany that person to the doctor's office. And the doctor says that, you know, here's the medicine you need to take. So you would understand that medicine and translate, and then be able to translate back and forth. So you'd have to have an understanding of what those certain medicines do, so you don't mix them up. And also confidentiality, because you can't tell anybody what you hear. So things like that. So that's once a week class for a total of 24 hours.
Is that a charge for that one?
Nope. No, unless they say there should be no charge. Interpreter for limited English. 2021, did you notice? Here. They just haven't updated this. So best thing to do is call the office and see if they're doing it again. Like here's that number. Because it could be they just didn't update it. On the other hand, I only know about our classes which are running. I do know that the coding one was up for bid, and so was ESL and the GED. So I think those are still active. In fact, I think they're over there right now. So give them a call. They can tell you about more than I can. But it never hurts to ask. Let me just close those. All right, so back to QuickBooks. Except the distribution one never showed up.
Are they gonna be fixing the laptops?
I thought so. I left them a key. Instead of fixing laptops, I took the key. I gotta ask them. So yes, they're supposed to. That was the idea. All right, so once you've logged into your QuickBooks, we're going to set up our accounts that we can work with. So we're going to start over here with that little chart of accounts. So you'll see chart of accounts here under your company. Yes.
Were you able
to unlock the Hotmail page. I'm
Which-
using my daughter's Chromebook,
Okay,
but it's not letting me open Hotmail.
see.
So it's like, yeah. I'm like, it's a computer from the district.
Are you using the guest?
Are you using
The network?
No. Oh, you-
Yeah. Try that one. I don't have any controls over those.
okay.
That's the IT department. So yeah, try this network. PJUSD guest. Because I don't think there's any restrictions on that one.
Refresh.
Did it work? Because I'm able to get to this page using the Hotmail link. So when you get to your chart of accounts, you're going to see this little instruction, unless you're using an older version or your other beginning file. The first time you go to the chart of accounts, you see, take a peek under the hood, and it's going to tell you all these accounts are basically what run QuickBooks. So I'm going to click on See Your Chart of Accounts. So when I bring it up, you'll notice I have some figures already. So in my accounts receivable, I have 14,127.30. That came from when we uploaded our customers and they had past due amounts. They'll show up here. So it's all combined. That just means you are owed that much from customers. Are you going to get it all paid? Hopefully. We'll also have some inventory from when we uploaded our products. As I scroll down here, you'll also see there's accounts payable. That has a figure. These are from when I uploaded my vendors, because remember I owed the vendors some money. So that's in there too. I'm going to click on View Register of my accounts payable just to see them. And there they are. So that's where it's coming up with that 434.49. At the top, I'm going to click back to the chart of accounts, and we're going to create some new ones. So I'm going to go to the top, and where it says new, we're going to create new accounts. You'll see you can also import. If you have a list of accounts already done up in an Excel spreadsheet or something, again, you can import them. We're going to do these manually though. So just click on new. The first one, I'm going to call this advanced checking. Advanced checking account. Again, you can give it any name you like. It just identifies why you're setting this up. And then I'm going to select a category. So again, you can see all the different types of category. And it's basically, if you scroll down the chart of accounts, you will see all these different categories have already been set up. So that's why I said before, unless you're doing bank accounts, usually you don't really have to do new income accounts or expense accounts or assets or liabilities. Those are pretty standard. Once in a while, though, you will come across something that's kind of odd. And so you might want to set up something along those lines. Like, for example, remember I mentioned the coupon books? Let's just say this coupon book, they're kind of mean. I shouldn't say mean, but they're cautious. So instead of just saying, here are the books, sell them, they'll say, could you give us $100 to hold? And then once you sell them all, we'll return your 100. So it's kind of like earnest money or something. Well, that would be when you pay them $100 and you're taking on those books, that's a liability you have. You're going to lose that $100 if you don't sell books or give them back. So that would be an oddball liability that doesn't really fit anywhere else. So you could set up under something like that. But we're just going to do a straightforward bank account. So our type is going to be checking. We're going to set up an opening balance today. So use a drop-down list. And again, it'll ask you, when did you want to start the opening balance? And we'll say it's $8,000. And if you want, you can put the cents in. I believe you can still use commas. But QuickBooks does not require them. I like the commas because I'm just a human being, and it helps to see three numbers. Because when I just glance at this, is that 8,000 or 80,000? I have to pause. 3 zeros. Okay, 8,000.
So we're doing a new advanced checking account?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is like. Yeah. So it's good.
So si lo
Yeah.
hiciste save,
Remember I was telling you about the programmers and they do stuff? So whenever when you set it up, the first day, it determines that. I didn't know it would ever change this one. I know it changes the navigator sometimes, but I didn't know this one. I'll have to experiment with that, figure out how that happened. But it's still going to do the same thing and work the same way. You're just going to have to translate a little bit here. So it's account type checking. So it set up a today balance of $8,000. And for description, I'll just say checking for advanced transactions. And you'll see creates it right here.
In category, you did just
I did.
Income, expenses.
Yeah, I'll go here. Let's do that again. So
Okay.
that's okay. There's new.
Yeah.
So I call it advanced checking.
Yeah.
And then you select the category. It's going to be a bank account.
Bank.
Yep. And then you're going to do the type, because under the bank accounts are these types. So for rents held in trust, that's if you're a landlord, a savings account, money market account, credit card account, checking, etc. So we're going to do checking. And I said as of today, $8,000. So if you just joined us, we just went to the chart of accounts. We're creating a new checking account called advanced checking. And the total amount will be 8,000 for today. So that'll give you 8,000 in this account to work out of to start. Now, if you really are just setting this up, you can set up bank accounts at the bank without putting any money in, especially if you already have another account with them. You decide a free one without asking for money. So you can have an amount of 0 here and then just do transfers later on or deposits or anything else. But we'll just start off with a balance of 8,000. So it should give us this right here. And then I can click on this checking account and view the register. And you'll see here, there's my 8,000 starting today, ready to spend. So let's do another one. All this time it's going to be a savings account. So I'm going to click on New. I'll call this one Advanced Savings. The category, it's also going to be a bank account because a savings account is a type of bank account. And this one's going to be savings. So you want to select savings as the account type. Now, as far as QuickBooks is concerned, there's not a lot of difference between a savings account and checking account. Your bank, though, it does make a big difference. Most banks won't do a credit or debit card off of a savings account, but they will do it off the checking account. And then you'd think they're the same, but the way the transactions are processed, it's still different. It's really funny because it's you'd think it should all be like QuickBooks. Just you put a number in, you're done. But with like checking accounts, they operate on a slightly different system, just because of that's how it's always been done. So put a new balance here. This one will be 3,000 as of today. And I'm just going to click Save with no description. And now I've got 2 accounts. All right, ready for a third?
Do we have an amount of the savings?
3,000. 3,000 to start the deposit. Yeah, see right here, my 3. As of today.
Yeah.
So you should end up with that amount. Is there a question? Okay, so when you might want to cancel out, try again. When you go to New, you should get a screen something like this. And the category name is the name of your account. So I said Advanced Savings.
You are repeating the information for
Yes, somebody had a question online, so I'm kind of going through it again. So don't do another one. Then you have to use this select category. Now this, I'll be honest with you, in the desktop version, this is a box too. And I just think this should be a box. And it's a pick list. but they didn't do it that style. So it looks like it's not that important, but it is. So you have to select the category. Then here's the pick list. And we're doing bank and credit cards. By the way, these dots, and this is good to know if you ever do programming, these are called radio buttons because see how I click bank and credit cards? Let's say I change my mind and click income. See, when I click income, bank and credit cards automatically turned off. I didn't have to turn this off and then go to that. And when I go bank and credit cards, yeah, I'm just showing the buttons. So they call these radio buttons. You want to know why they're called radio buttons?
Why?
Do you remember in the old cars when you pushed a button for the radio station?
Yeah.
The other one popped out? That's the idea. Now, nobody knows what those are, but they still call them that. So when you're programming, they'll say, put a radio button here. Okay, and you have to know it. What it means when you select something, whatever else is selected gets automatically turned off. So the user doesn't have to go in and say, okay, I got to turn off the income before I turn on the bank and credit cards. So only one thing can be selected, and that should be the bank and credit cards. So that's a little trivia. And then you click on select. And then it will say account type. And this is the pick list. So we're doing savings. And again, it's not a radio button because you don't have those little circles, but it has the same style that you can only pick one. And when you choose another one, the first one disappears. So I have the check mark there and not with checking anymore. And then we said this is today, $3,000. And then you can save. I'm going to cancel because I already have one. Then when you get that done, we're going to do one more. But this is a bad one. It's going to be a credit card. Credit cards are dangerous. So I'm going to call this the Visa credit card. And you could set up credit cards for any of the companies. And again, this category name is just a description for our account. And you can call it anything you like. If you've got different credit cards with different banks, you can call this the Chase credit card. And the other one, the Morgan Stanley credit card, or whatever you have. And you can have multiple credit cards. And it will still be a bank and credit card. So we're still going to use that category. And the type is going to be credit card. Okay. For credit card? So now all this weekend, I'm going to be going home messing around with QuickBooks, trying to make it do that.
So you're not doing bank and credit cards?
It is. It's a bank and credit cards here, but then underneath it, these are all the types of bank and credit card accounts. I selected credit card.
Got it.
So like I said, I don't like how this is arranged. See how this looks? It's almost like duplicating. So I don't know, somebody came up with it. That's when some supervisor of the programmers told them to do this, and so they did it. But in the desktop version, I think it's much cleaner because they're basically the same style with boxes. All right, now here comes a problem. We're going to have a balance as of today. But remember, when we did the checking and the savings, that's money we have.
Right.
In a credit card, it works the opposite. This is how much we owe on the card already. And you could, you're setting this up from another system, you could have a balance carry over. So we'll just make it $1,000. Yeah. Okay. And then save. You will notice our credit card doesn't show up with our savings and our checking accounts. So to find it, there's two ways to find it. One is you can scroll down. And here it is. And you'll see, because the type is C credit card instead of B bank, it's going to show up a little further down the list here. But a credit card has it registered just like the bank accounts. And there's 1,000 I already have on my card. I was thinking she may have done it too. All right, it is 6:57, so it's break time. We'll take a 10-minute break. Come back at 7:07. On yours, do me a favor. Go into, if you can go into the accounts and settings. Yeah. And then company, what does it say here for industry on yours? Same one? Huh. Back there. Yeah. Okay. So my theory was, because there are different retailers, if it were a different one, because that's what happened before. Yesterday, people were getting confused because mine, I had selected a different type of retailer. And on the left-hand side here, I didn't have the get paid and pay. So what I did is I switched back. Said, okay, now it should look like that. And I was thinking maybe that did that too for the accounts.
Do you think this compares to where we were?
I don't think so. Well, I don't know, so I can't say. But I think it's a software. I think it's a setting in the software, and it might be something.
Maybe you can help out the lady.
Okay. Okay, Liliana, if you're still there. If it says new account at the top, you might have a little different layout. Yeah.
made sure I went back to the class and I saw the video on it.
Huh. Yeah, it should, unless, so this is one of those things. That's why I'm going through the settings. There's a couple of things that are just one little thing got turned on or off or something. So here's an example of like if the dollar sign, the dollar amount, the currency style gets changed, the dollar signs at the end, and that confuses people. Like little things like that. But I don't know what would do the accounts. Well, if I can't figure it out, then I post it on the questions board, and they'll. So I'm sure somebody's run into that. Yeah.
Since the emails that you send us, I noticed you give us a username and password.
Oh yeah.
I tried doing that.
Didn't go in. Let me check that out, because they were supposed to reactivate it last month, September. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm still doing the transfer. But for the products, it's asking me like for non-inventory or services. I don't remember which one.
Okay, so did you download the file?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, we're not using that, so go ahead and cancel it out. Just like it put in the background. Scroll down.
So we switch computers.
Yeah.
She's got
Okay.
trouble like loading.
Okay, do non-inventory.
So this has to run.
Where it says save and close? No. Go.
Oh.
Don't let you save and close. Hello.
Do I just close it and try to do it again?
Escape. Yeah, absolutely. Huh. Okay, there it is. Okay. So instead of doing new here, use that little drop down. Yes.
So it's different. Look, I don't have nothing.
That's okay. That's from yesterday. Remember we uploaded those. Go figure that. So hers was different too. Yours is the third different. It's the same information, it's just the layout. Correct.
Yeah.
All right. So bank and then type here.
So now
Check. Check.
the setting for the
So you call it advanced check. Check. Yeah, CGC.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Right. This is for you. That's what it is. I don't have a computer. It's fine. Oh, that's right. This is 61 cents. Every time I need it, I look at that.
Yeah. Well, we're just gonna set this up once.
Together,
We're gonna set up one checking,
Ella me va a enseñar
one saving.
el proper-
So,
un cheque, one, y yo le voy a
Saving.
hacer saving. Sí. Like, me enseña
Take it out.
so when I start doing the next person, we're gonna me habló y me dice, ¿cómo está? ¿Cómo está? Y eso es lo que te estoy hablando. Dice, ¿cómo está? Porque es-
That's right. Bank type. And it says-
Sí.
So it starts off here at bank, that's correct. Use that type. Now it's going to save. One more. We're saving. It's fine. And then this was 3. Right.
I like it ours for there. I try again. It's beauty for me. And where is the
Yes.
side?
Right. One more. This one's going to be bank.
No se usa
So anyway, that's all right. It's going to be the same account. Yeah, it's going to be today. We have $1,000. We don't want this credit. So I would say it's not going to show it here. Yes, you have to scroll down. Yeah. Good. This. Yeah.
For the creation account, right?
Right. This one, I want to see how yours is set up because it's different than mine. Okay. Okay, so see how the industry is like. And then look at industry. The word retail, R-E-T.
Do you remember me saying-
Miscellaneous. Miscellaneous. Now say. Done. Okay, we're not going to do a new one. I just want to see how it's going to work. Oh, there was my theory. Close that. I was thinking that if it was set up differently, that would explain the difference between the two. But I don't, yes,
It's because I can import Excel for bookkeeping. What is the difference in the basic bookkeeping and advanced bookkeeping?
the basic bookkeeping, like we did checking account before. So now we're gonna add the credit card. And the basic bookkeeping class, we typed in our customers and vendors. This class is important.
So I need that in Excel or make it advanced bookkeeping.
No, if you want, I can send you the link to all the bookkeeping sessions that we took for the basic class. You can watch those on video. But you can use Excel. Now I did yesterday for the import list, but that we won't use Excel for anything else. There is a way to do reports and do graphs. We'll do a little bit of that, but otherwise you don't have to do Excel.
I make the bachelor in accounts.
Mhm.
My countries, Brazil. So I think it's a little different, but and in account, I think debt, credit,
Right.
right?
Right.
Passive, active.
Right.
But I make the account and bookkeeping, or it's finance. I may confuse.
Okay. In QuickBooks, the program we're using, they've already set this up for you. So let me go back. So here is the chart of accounts, and they're all set. When you first set up the program, it made these for you. You can go and do the debits and credits by going, again, to this little cog. And you'll see this is kind of what we're doing yesterday, the import desktop data or import data. That's where we used Excel. Oh, wait, it's not here. Sorry. It's over on this side where I click this logo and go to new. And you'll see here's journal entries. So this is where you can access the journal directly. And everything we've done, you can do manually through the journal. But the advantage of QuickBooks is it's going to make these journal entries as you're paying an invoice, for example. So you don't have to pay the invoice and go into the journal. So, yeah. So that's the other way. And sometimes you have to do that when there are mistakes or questions. You do have to make journal entries. But hopefully it's rare. So after all that, hers is a third way. It looks different, yeah. So now I got a real challenge. That's funny. That's funny, it never happened before. But I did say QuickBooks customizes itself. It's just somehow along the line. I don't know why. And I don't know why, of all things, that would be different. Because, well, I'm using logic, I guess, but I would think you keep it the same for everybody. But anyway, who knows? I will find out for sure. Okay, we're going to take a look at a report. So, give the business overview. On the navigator. When mine loads up. And you should see reports. Let me close the other window. I'll check on them at SOB thing, see what happened. Well, whenever mine decides to load up. So I'm going to look at the profit and loss. So you'll see I already have money made and I've already spent some money. Why? Even though I haven't made any invoices or any bills, because I carried over those balances from before, they're going to show up here. You can see the totals. There's the other report. Oops. And we're going to take a look at that one too. It's the balance sheet. So the profit loss basically shows the activity. And even though I haven't done any individual things, because I uploaded yesterday some numbers, those do carry over in the profit loss. So they're also going to show up on the balance sheet. The balance sheet also includes any accounts that you have set up and any money in those accounts, including our advanced checking account and advanced savings accounts right here. Oops, I missed. I meant to circle this. Okay, so that's carryover balances. Except down below in the liabilities department, we see the credit card. Because again, the 3,000, the 8,000 in those accounts, I keep that, that's mine. The 1,000 down here, I owe for whatever I paid out of those. So you'll see, even though the account types were very similar, they act differently on the balance sheet. So this is where QuickBooks does make that differentiation. The credit card amount is going to be held against you because basically you're going to have to pay it. So if you're going to the bank asking for a loan, they'd say, well, okay, geez, oh, you only owe $1,000 on your credit card. That's not too bad. Okay. So they'll look at that differently than your amounts up here in your savings. Because, you know, in theory, I have enough money that I could pay off that credit card balance right now and still have 7,000 left. So it doesn't look bad. It's when they're reversed. You get a lot of credit card debt and little money on hand. That's a concern. So credit cards for businesses work very similarly to individuals in that businesses can use them. For some credit cards, they will give them special deals. I'm sure you've seen the commercials on TV where they say, I gave my employees a raise with all the money I saved in my credit card. Depending on their competitiveness, sometimes they'll give you perks back. So like free airline mileage, although they kind of drop that because that's really for a person. And too many people were setting up these credit cards and then taking the mileage and it really belonged to the company kind of thing. So now it's like business perks. So like free t-shirts or things like that. But like an individual, if you have too much credit card debt, you're still paying interest on that. And that's one of the things we're going to have to log in our credit card account is the interest we're going to pay. So if you get a good credit card, you know, it should be low interest. And sometimes they'll give you a free card if you spend $1,000 a month or something. So what a lot of people will do, will say, all right, I'll get a business credit card and then I'll buy some of our inventory on it and then I'll pay it off right away, which is great until, well, I can't pay it this month. I can let it wait. I'll pay it next month. And then you start earning that interest. And then the interest upon the interest grows to the credit card's favor. And that's where things can get out of hand. So it can get out of hand for a business just as it can for individuals. Sometimes when people do too much on a credit card in a business, it can really hurt the business because not only, this is a credit card for our business. We can also turn around and use credit cards for our customers. We can take credit card transactions. To do so though, again, we have to pay another fee to the credit card company every year. Plus, I think it's like 1 or 2% of every transaction. And so like if somebody buys something for 10 cents, well, that's going to be a small percentage, but it'll be like a penny that we have to pay to the credit card company. So that can add up too. And that's why some places they'll have two prices. And then what did we say? Oh, in Livingston, there is a restaurant and we were paying cash for something anyway, but On the way out, I noticed a sign on the wall and it said, due to credit card company price increases, non-cash transactions will be charged a 4% fee. Yeah, I can understand it at 4%, but anyway. So I noticed that only after I paid, right? I was thinking they should put up a big sign while you walk in because 4%, it's kind of a lot. But that's because they're getting hit with it. And they just want to pass it on so they don't have to pay it out of their profits because their profit margins are pretty slim. Plus their tacos are really dry, so they probably don't sell too much. But anyway, so I mean, that can happen and you'll see that in places and that's okay. If a business wants to do that, they can do that. They're just supposed to tell you up front because a lot of people now will use their credit cards and debit cards. And I don't know if you noticed, when you run your debit card through, you can actually tell it to use it as a credit card. The debit card doesn't cost the store as much as the credit card. So one of the reasons when you slide it, it'll assume it's a debit card unless you tell it otherwise, is because they're trying to get off the cheapest way they can. But you can make it a credit card and then the store has to pay that percentage fee, just like it were a credit card. The advantage of doing that is if there's ever a problem, you get all the, as a customer, you get all the security as a credit card, even if it's a credit/debit. So that means is if you want to return something, or if you did a transaction online and it didn't show up, you can call the credit card version of your debit card and cancel the transaction. And the company is pretty much stuck. They'd have to make a really good case as to why that they really did deliver it or something happened, that it was the customer's fault. But they have to fight it out with the credit card company. In that case, the credit card company is kind of on your side. So that's one reason of using it that way. Plus, if you do as a debit, you have to put in your PIN code. And if somebody copies that, and there's this thing called skimmers, they'll put on these things that'll pick up your card number and your PIN number. And then once they get that, they're going to go to town and your account's going to be empty. So that's the difference between the way the credit cards and debit cards work. In our case, we haven't set up a credit card account for our customers. We set that up for ourselves when we want to buy things. All right, speaking of which, let's do a transfer. Now we have our account set up. So I'm going to click on this little cog up here, that gear. Oh, I lied. I did again. That's the second time today. I meant go to the QuickBooks logo here and go to new. There it is. And you want to do a transfer. Yes. Yeah, transfer. So we're going to transfer funds from savings to checking. All right. So it should look like this. So I'm going to put the from account first. Now you'll notice I do have the ability to transfer from the credit card. Okay, that wouldn't be good. The worst thing you do for a credit card is ask for cash out, because then they'd hit you with their own percentage. Plus you pay interest on it. Terrible. So we're not going to do that. We're going to pull it from savings and we're going to transfer to the checking account. You notice as I select them, it gives you the current balances here, those accounts. And then the amount is going to be $1,000. And it will be today's date. You can post date this. So let's say it's 7:25 at night for my business. I know I'm not going to do this till tomorrow at the bank. And I want my transaction to have the same date as the receipt I get from the bank. Well, I could post date this here to the 14th, and then it will show on the 14th. It'll still show up in my account, today, but it will show as the transaction on the 14th. But we're not going to do that. Let's go ahead and leave it today. Okay. So memo, I'll just put transfer for product purchases. So we're going to use this money to buy some products. Now, why couldn't I just use a savings account to pay out of? Again, my debit card, if I want to use a debit card, or the check comes out of the checking account. What a lot of banks will do is if you have a large savings account, they will say, if your checking account goes to zero, if you overspend, they'll do an automatic transaction from your savings to your checking to cover it. And that way they don't charge you bounce check fees, right? So you could do that, or you could just preempt it by doing this transaction. Down here at the bottom, you got save and new or save and close. Save and new will record it and leave this screen up to do another transaction. Because we're not going to do another transfer, I'm just going to use save and close. So we'll save it and close it. And again, I don't know if you could see on the screen, it's really light. But next to save and close, it says Control Alt D. And what that's telling you is if you hold Control and the Alt and the letter D, it will do the same thing. You have the same one. From savings. No, this one, because you're going from savings into the checking. Yeah. So this was saying, because you can't transfer from one account into its side. Good. Yeah. So I'll save and close it. I'm going to go back to my chart of accounts. And now you can see my balances have changed. So this was 3, that was 8. 1,000 got moved over. I'm going to click on the checking account view register here. And there's the transfer. All right. So now let's say it wasn't supposed to be 1,000. It was only supposed to be 500. Oops. So we want to edit the transaction. This is one that you can edit anytime. The sooner the better, though. I'm going to click on edit. And see it brings up this screen again. So this is one where we started, but I'm going to change the amount here. So I'm going to wipe out that 1,000 and say, no, that was only supposed to be 500. And save and close. See, it changed it. Now, you'll notice, okay, we'll do it one more time. So I clicked on the transaction at the bank register. I'm in the checking account. There's the register. By the way, because this went from savings to checking, you can also do this from the savings account. Doesn't matter which one you start at. They share the transaction. So I'm going to click on edit. You only see edit when you click on the transaction. Are you on? Okay, so let's go back there. So I just happened to click the checking right here. So I went to view register, this one. So I click on view register, and then this shows up. And I can see, remember I typed in transfer for product So I'm going to click on that. Now, the way the registers work is each transaction gets 2 lines. So this is just one transaction. And that was the opening balance transaction. So they're 2 separate transactions. They're going to use a total of 4 lines. By the way, if you ever find that confusing, you could do this too. I go up to this little gear here, and I can change it to show on one line. And then each transaction only gets 1 line. So if you like that, that's better. Really? That's another one. So when you click on the gear, check. Oh, square. You know, I think you're thinking logo. Yeah. So that's supposed to be, here's what happens when you see those, it means it didn't load the icon pictures. So there's a placeholder for it. Now I happen to know that's the right one. Do that again. And then you can change to 1 line.
We have different check marks on us for the options. Doesn't matter.
No. And the show on 1 line is just a personal preference.
Like we have check mark on memo and
Yeah.
banking status and running balance.
Yeah. When I watch what happens when I turn off show on 1 line,
Oh, got it. Okay.
see how they change?
Got it.
I'll be honest with you. All it really does is it wipes out, it doesn't wipe out, hides this memo. This doesn't show.
Got it.
And that's how it's able to put it all in 1 line.
Okay.
See like that? So yeah, those will automatically change for you. Now I can override that and say, no, I still want to see the memo. And it'll squeeze it in here. But the more you squeeze in, the more it's just showing little bits of it gets cut off. So that's the downside. So it's up to you. I'll go ahead and leave it 2 lines because that's the default. So then to get to the edit, I click on it on the transaction. And that's when you see edit, and it can delete it if I didn't want it.
Same, right.
Yeah. But I'm going to click edit. And here you go. Now you'll notice one thing it does not do, it does not give me the account choices. I can't change those. Well, I mean, I can't, but you're basically then overriding. At that point, I would just delete it because you're overriding too much at once, in my opinion. But anyway, so I just change this amount from 1,000 to 500 and save and close. And now instead of 1,000, it's 500. So most of these things you could change. Now here would be a problem. If I go back 3 months ago and try to change it, I can change it, but then everything else that happened since then, those balances are going to change. And if you're close to a 0 at some point, you can go underneath it, and that's a bad thing. So usually you try to get these changes quickly. Yeah. But things happen.
So then you have to go and fix everything.
You don't.
Something like that.
Well, here's what would happen. So there's the real world and there's QuickBooks. In the real world, if that happened, if you go below 0, your bank is going to send you a little love note. Dear Dan, we like you, but you know what happened to your account? Or like on mine, I have it set to email, or text alerts now. So it'll tell you if you're getting close. So what that, in fact, that would probably be how you figured out this was made a mistake. Because like, oh, that shouldn't be. We should be at least 500 over. What happened? And you say, oh no, that transfer, there it is. So that's usually what happens. See, even in my savings now, there's the 500. So then you go back and say, okay, that was a mistake. I'm going to fix it. Now, if it just happened to be last night, remember I said, I'm going to go to the bank in the morning. I do my transfer. And I look at the receipt and go, oh, whoops, right, that's right. What was I thinking 1,000? I don't know. It was only supposed to be 500. So I go and fix it, what, 12 hours, 24 hours. That's not too bad. But it's, when you have more transactions off of this, like in my checking account, when I start spending, all of a sudden I don't have as much money as I thought I had. It's because I messed up this transfer. It was too much. So you can go back and fix it. If, go back to chart of accounts. If I did find this, let's say a week later, I'd have a whole week's worth of transactions up here. This balance would adjust as soon as this is changed to what it was actually, and that should match up with the bank. So it gets bad when somebody doesn't catch it for a long time. Sometimes, we're just talking about the journal transactions, sometimes it could be, 500 is kind of a lot, but let's say it's just 50. That might be something that's missed and everybody's so busy, nobody caught it. So you don't catch it till a year later. Well, at that point, all the taxes have been filed on it. It's kind of, you want to fix it, but at the same time, you don't want it to change all your transactions. So that's when you can use the journal to manipulate it and make it as a journal entry instead. So we'll get into that. That's really advanced. That's big time accountant stuff, because that is a complex maneuver. But once you know how to do it, it's not too bad. All right, see how that worked? Okay, now we're going to do something similar but different. So I'm going to go up here to new again, and we're going to use pay down credit card. Right there. This is going to be very similar to what we just did, except it's primarily for you paying the credit card. So which credit card did we pay? Well, I only have one, so it's pretty easy. Visa. You'll see there's a payee if you have more than one account. You can actually select one of your vendors here and put their name on it. If you're doing it like on something you just purchased. We're just going to leave it blank. But I'm going to go down to how much did you pay? So we'll pay $250. And you notice I typed in 250 and then I hit the tab key and the computer automatically put it in the 0.00. So you could do it too, it doesn't matter. And then the date of payment, I'll just make it today. And then which account did you use for this payment? So we're going to use our checking account. You'll see up here, this number is going to match whatever I typed here. So just kind of confirmation here to remind you this is what you're paying. And then once I selected that checking account, you'll see I get this option. I made a payment with a check. That means like a paper check. So the check's going to be in the mail, but that means there's also a check number that I'll have to add. So I'm not going to do that. We're just going to use it as an electronic transaction out of the checking account. But just so you know, if you turn it on, then you can put the check number. If you're doing the transaction, but you're not printing the check at this second, you're going to print it like at the end of the day when you run all the checks, you can tell that check mark here to print later. It will automatically assign the check number and then put it with all the other checks that go out in the mail. But I'm going to turn both these off. I don't know if you know this, it was just like 2 years ago. The numbers flipped. It used to be most transactions were paid by check. And then now it's most transactions are paid electronically with checks coming number 2. So that's the way we're going to do it. And then you'll see here we've got memos and attachments. If you wanted to make a note as to why this particular payment was special, say our first credit card payment. But that's probably just sentimental. But if it was something that you purchased specifically for the business, let's say it rained and you had a little spot on the ceiling, and they make this can of stuff that shoots straight up and it covers the spot. So I went up here and went, right? So I bought $250 worth of that and we fixed that up. I might want to make a note here that that's what I bought it for. It was something for use within the business. We're not going to resell it. We used it. They look great. We threw the cans away. And then if you had a receipt or something, you can include it here too. That's what the attachments are for. But we're not going to do that. I'm just going to save and close. So now if I did it right, I scroll down.
Why is something not quite right? I think so, kids. Is maybe reconciliation.
There is a spot for that. So here you can see my credit card, just FYI, is now instead of 1,000, now I'm down to 750 because I paid the 250. And then I can look at my check register. And view this register. And there's my transaction. And you mentioned the reconciliation, there is a column for that here. The only one that's automatically set up as reconciled was the opening balance. Later on, at the end of the month, you go through and you can reconcile these. And it's just a matter of, oops. You can put a check mark, a C, an R for reconciled, or blank. So you can reconcile these later on. And then again, if you need to edit it, you can edit this just like we did before. So these two screens work very similarly, but one is designed specifically for credit cards and the other is for basically all other bank accounts. Could I have used the other screen to do this transaction? Yes, you can. I want to go to transfer. You'll see in the transfer, I could select the checking account and I could select the Visa. The difference is here, I cannot charge a vendor, or I cannot do this on a vendor's behalf or add a name to it. So there are it's a slight difference. However, I'm actually just going to do it. I'll do it for 100. So I go into my check register. And you'll see it's just tagged differently like that. But the end result is the same. And same when I go into the credit card and look at that register. So go to the chart of accounts. I missed it. Here's the other way to find the account. I know it's called Visa, so I'll just have the word Visa in here. So you can use that find box to find accounts. And you'll see here it is, but it's a transfer. Yeah. No, because I'm going to go delete mine. Because really, if you're doing it as a credit card payment, you should use the credit card screen. I'm just saying it doesn't make a whole lot of difference, but it essentially does the same function, but it's tagged a little differently. So just to show you, I can delete. Yes, I'm sure. Now it's gone. So the screens basically just move money around. Because I use this search box to find Visa, it only shows me accounts with the word Visa in it, which I happen to know is only one. But I'm going to go back up here to show everything again. Oops. chart of accounts. So you see how that worked? So I'd still have to send out the check to the credit card company if I wrote it by check, or do the transaction online with the credit card company. This doesn't automatically pay my Visa bill, right? I have to do it twice, once online as a transaction and then come into QuickBooks and log it. If you tie your accounts to real live accounts, it'll do that for you. So it actually happens one shot live. So that's the good news of doing that. The bad news of doing that is they're going to charge you a fee. So you pay for convenience. All right, any questions on what we just did? Let's do one more new account. So I'm going to click on the chart of accounts, new. I'm going to call this advanced petty cash. So depending on which screen you're seeing, that's going to be the name, and then try to select the category. Again, it's going to be yes. So you're going to have to select from that list for banks, credit cards, and you're looking for this, cash. So let me see if you got that. Yeah, okay, so this one, bank. Yes. Cash on hand. Advanced petty cash. Oh, okay. That works. So for this one, it's going to be cash on hand. We'll start this office today at $200. So again, this is just cash you're going to keep in a cash drawer for quick small purchases. And then save. So now I've got 3 up here and the credit card's still down below. Why is it this one the same or put next to the checking and savings? It's because these 3 are bank types and the other one was credit card. The other thing you'll see is once again, when we set these accounts up for you, you get 250 free new accounts like we just created. Any more than that, and then you have to increase your license. So you'll see I'm now using 5 additional accounts. So the ones we set up today and then what we had from yesterday. So we're still way under 250. So remember I said you can have as many checking accounts as you want? You can. In QuickBooks though, if you hit that 250 number, then they'll start charging you the next rank up on the license. But I don't know personally anybody who's hit that 250 mark. Well, I'm sure if you had a large business, you could easily do that. All right, so now we shuffled some money around and now it's all over the place. So one question that comes up is, where did that 200 come from? That's carryover, because you notice I didn't transfer it. I just said we already started off with this amount. So when I started with QuickBooks, I went to the little cash drawer, found $200 in there and said, all right, I'm going to type that in here. So that's already been accounted for, hopefully, at some point along the line, at the point we started using QuickBooks. If you're going to start accounting for it in QuickBooks, what I would have done is said this is a 0 balance and then do a transfer from, say, checking into petty cash for 200. So then we know that's where it went, right? So that would give it the backup. And we will be doing that later on. Let's go back to the reports. So I'm going to go to business overview. And look at my balance sheet. And even though it is just little petty cash, it still counts on your balance sheet. And there it is. If you look at these numbers, because we just moved like some funds from the savings to the checking, this total wouldn't change because of that. It did change because we added 200 and then we made some payments out of the checking account. But as long as the original balance was the same, this number is going to come out the same. So yeah. If you're using the detail. The summary shows you just see numbers like that. You were looking at the balance sheet, but it had all the transactions of a lot bigger report. This is just the summary. So there are actually, I think, 3 different versions of balance sheets you can run on QuickBooks. If I were looking at this is the report I would look at because it just gives me the basic numbers. If I had to return a report into the boss, I'd print the long one just so I could say here and flip through the pages. As you'll see, and it looks like I really know what I'm talking about because all these numbers are on there. But when you just want to know the bottom line, here you go. I got $25,000, including liability and equity. So pretty good. Any questions on transferring funds? Okay. Then we are done for the night. And done for the week. So we'll be back on Monday. Have a great weekend. Nice and warm. I say we're unseasonably warm. So I'll take it until it gets really cold. Sure. Yeah, we'll be here. Have a good night. Thank you. You too.
Thank you, Mr. Guerra.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.
All right. Drive safely.